Hi everyone, I am Payal and I welcome you all in the first class of economic survey wherein we are going to, go with the detailed analysis of the entire survey that has come in this particular year. So if I talk about the two documents which are very important documents, be it economic survey and economic budget, these two documents are the most important documents for your examination perspective also and for general life also, just because we as the people of India must know that what has been the performance of the previous financial year and where is now government going to invest, where is government now going to gain its revenue, and where is government now going to do its expenditure. Yes, you heard it right. So this is the basic differentiation between the survey and your budget. If I talk about survey, then this is basically a report card of your previous financial year. So this year's, if you could have seen it, this year's economic survey is about the performance of various sectors of 2024 and 25. Exactly how various sectors has performed, in different areas. What was the performance of the manufacturing sector? What was the performance of your services sector? What was the performance of your agricultural sector? From where it has, again investment, where it has spent, what was its revenue, what all are the problems that it has faced, this particular sector has faced. So survey tells you, basically it is a report card which tells you the performance of various sectors that are there in the economy, and reading them you analyze that in aggregate manner how our economy has performed in 2024-25. So this is basically about us economic survey. Whereas if I talk about economic budget, this is basically a forecast. Okay, economic budget is our report card, whereas if I talk about economic survey is our report card. If I talk about economic budget, this is basically a forecast in which you get to know that in the coming financial year where is our government going to spend, where is our government going to get revenue from. So basically you learn about the earnings of the government in the coming financial year and the spendings that government is going to do in the coming financial year. So basically we see if manufacturing sector is given this much crore of rupees, so basically you get an idea that okay, this is how manufacturing sector has performed in the financial year, and now government taking care of the performance of the financial year of the previous financial year. Now the government has given this particular sector this much money to perform in a better way. So these two documents are very, very important because you must know the historical sense and you must know the present sense of the particular sector, and you must know how these sectors are going to perform in the coming future. Okay, so this is the basic idea, or I would say that this is the basic differentiation between your survey and your budget. Now coming on the basic idea of the economic survey, when was it released, when was the first year when it was released, what is its meaning exactly, which of the ministry represents it, how it is prepared. So we'll first analyze that and then we'll see the 13 chapters, like one by one we'll analyze the entire chapter. So basically it covers 13 chapters. One by one we'll completely analyze it and we'll see that how much it is important for your examination perspective, and at the end we have kept certain questions as well that will be helpful for a revision perspective. So before that, this is the scanner of our Telegram channel. We keep posting the updates regarding your lectures, and all of the stuff is updated in this particular Telegram channel only. You can scan it and you can join our Telegram channel. Next, if I talk about what is exactly economic survey, so I just told you that it is basically a report card. So you can see that it is a detailed report of the state of the economy in the closing financial year that is being closed. So if I talk about current year, this is your 2025-26. But what has been closed is your 2024-25. So this is the analysis. This is the analysis of your 2024-25. Okay. Similarly, if I talk about who prepares it, so it is prepared by the Economic Division of the Department of Economic Affairs in the Union Finance Minister, under the guidance of whom? Under the guidance of your Chief Economic Advisor. Okay. Now, the first economic survey was presented in 1950-51 Until 1964 it was presented along with the budget. So the first year when it was implemented was this year, but until 1964 it was presented along with the budget. Now is the situation that first economic survey comes and then your economic budget comes. So it is a sign to the people of India that you first analyze. We as a government of India, we are trying to be very transparent with the people of India. Government says that okay, first analyze that how our sectors has performed in the previous financial year, then we'll give you an idea that how our sectors are going to perform in the coming financial year. So this is the idea basically. Okay, next, for the longest period of time the survey was presented in one volume only. Now also if you see, it is presented in one volume only, but in between for a certain period of time there came a time where government decided to come up with the survey in two volumes. So you can see that until between 2010 2011 2020 से लेके 2020 से लेके 2021 के बीच में क्या था, they used to come one volume only, but then came a time that it was presented in two volumes. But then after, from 2022 to 2023, it has now come again to one volume. Okay, it is now in one volume only. So what you get, the survey that we are going to discuss in the entire chapters, in the coming chapters, we'll see that this is particular one volume only. Okay, whatever you have downloaded, I'm very sure that you could have gone through the entire survey. That is entirely one volume. There are no two volumes that give a separate data of different of the sectors. Entire sectors are subsumed into one volume only. Right. Coming on to the first chapter, states the state of economy getting back into the fast lane. If I broadly talk about this particular chapter, so this chapter is broadly categorized into four things. That is your economic. First is the global economic scenarios. We'll talk about the growth here. We'll talk about this inflation here. We'll talk about what has been, the global scenarios. So we'll discuss entire these things in this particular topic. Next we have is domestic macro situation. So in this particular topic, in this particular broad topic, we'll discuss about the situation, or we'll discuss about the supply and demand related things. Okay. Next we have is emerging trends in the public finances. So public finances, in this particular broad coverage, we'll see about the taxation system, we'll see about inflation, where the government what is the source, what has been the source of the taxation, where government is going to invest. We'll see the parts of investment as well. So whatever is related to public finance, we'll see in this broader perspective. Then at last we have prospects and outlooks for growth. Basically we'll discuss about the outlooks for growth, the solutions that have been given, how it could have outperformed, and various things that are related to these particular four broader topics. First, if I jump on to what economic survey starts with. So this particular survey says that your previous financial year, which is your 2024-25, the survey says that it has been very eventful year. A lot of things have taken place. If I talk about the elections, a lot of countries have faced elections. A lot of the entire global population was busy in the election process. So that is the event that has taken place in 2024-25, and also it has impacted our economy in various ways that we'll discuss in the coming slides. Okay. Next, if I talk about geopolitical tensions, be it Israel Hamas war, be it any another war. So geopolitical tensions are also there, which has put impact on the economic perspectives. If I talk about trade, if the entire Russia Ukraine war has put a lot of stress on the food chain as well, a lot of stress in the inflation as well, a lot of stress in our trade market as well. So these geopolitical tensions have put a lot of effect in our global economy. Similarly, with the increasing trend of techniques and with the increasing trend of technologies, we have seen that there is increase in the problem of cyber attacks as well. So cyber attacks is a situation that has also been seen in our 2024-25 financial year. So similarly, if you see, then this survey says that global economy average has been grown by 3.3% against the IMF projection. So basically IMF has projected a global economic growth as 3.2%, as 3.2%. But if you see, the actual growth has been 3.3%. So this is a little moderate increase is there. Okay. Next, if you see, there is slowdown in the global manufacturing sector. There is betterment in the services sector. What are the factors that have, led to the slowdown of the global manufacturing sector? We'll discuss it in the coming slides. Then the survey says that the services sector has been increased. The reasons behind it we'll discuss in the coming slides, but the broader overview of this particular survey is this only. Okay. Next, if I talk about this particular chart, you can see that this shows the resilient global growth trends in 2024. So basically we are talking about the world growth. So if you see, in September 2024, it has been 3.2%. Okay. Now, if I talk about the global growth, it has been what we just read, that it has been 3.3%. But the projection of IMF was, IMF said that the performance will be near to 3.2%. 3.2%. So this is a moderate increase that our global economy has faced. Now, similarly, if you see this particular chart shows about the steady growth outlook across the country groups. You see the growth of the at the world perspective, at the global perspective, your advanced economies. If you talk about EMDEs, which are your emerging market and development economies, you can see here that in particular year 2023, if I talk about the world, the growth has been 3.3%. If you talk about your year 2025, it has been equivalent. It has remained equivalent to 3.3%. But there was a dip in 2024. Similarly, if I talk about advanced economies, you can see here that in the year 2023, it was 1.7%. The growth was 1.7%. But if you compare it with 2025, there is increase in it. It has come up to what? It has come up to 1.9%. This we are talking about advanced economies, basically who are the developed economies. Now, if I talk about your emerging markets and your similarly, if I talk about your developing economies, you can see that in 2023 the growth performance was 4.4%, but there is a dip here. Now, if you see, now emerging technologies, if I talk about emerging technologies, or if I talk about emerging markets, India is a part of it. Okay, India comes under EMDEs. So you will see that there is a dip here. In 2023, it was 4.4%. The growth was 4.4%. But now, if you see if I talk about 2025, there is a dip here of 4.2%. So this is how the growth aspect has been covered by the economic survey in this particular chart only. So this gives you entire insight about the growth aspect. Similarly, if I talk about global economic scenarios, so firstly, if it talks about what? It talks about the inflationary pressure. So if you see that during the COVID time, there was a easing monetary policy. Now your monetary policy is basically given by the central banks of our entire I would say entire economies. We have RBI as our central bank. So central bank does what? Central bank, the main function of the central bank is to take care of the economies. So central bank ensures that I would say the economy remains in a stabilized position. If there is inflation in the market, monetary policy is a tool using which the RBI stabilizes the position of the economy. Okay. So if I talk about the inflationary pressure, so it says that trended downward steadily. Okay. It has been trended downward steadily during the period of COVID time. The central banks used monetary policy as easing monetary policy. It reduced the interest rate, which led to rise in the inflation. But now, if you see that your central banks, if I talk about the entire economy, central banks, they are trying their best that they use tighter monetary policy through which they are increasing the interest rate. So if the interest rate increases, the supply in the economy, the supply of money in the economy will be reduced. So this will lead to what? This will lead to reduction in inflation. So your inflation says that the inflation pressure is, trending downwards. It is coming downwards. Similarly, if I talk about disinflation, so the survey says that disinflation slowed because of the persistence of services inflation. Now the survey says that there is inflation in the services sector, because if you see, after COVID period, the wages of the workers have been very high. So this is one of the reasons that we can see there is slowed, the disinflation has been slowed. Similarly, if I talk about core goods, then core goods inflation has fallen to negligible levels. This is what your economic survey says. Similarly, if I talk about your global uncertainties, so I told you that there are a lot of tensions. Okay, we have a tension of your inflation, we have a tension of your food chain, we have a tension of meeting the food supply in the market, because we see there is a rise in the global population and we are not able to meet the demand of the people. We are not able to provide them adequate food. We are not able to fulfill tummy of each and every individual. So this is one of the main problems that our global economy is facing. Similarly, we have the big tension we have is geopolitical war. You see that there has been Russia Ukraine war, there has been Israel Hamas war. So these are the wars that are putting stress, or that are putting tensions in our trade as well, and they are putting tensions, they are increasing, they are one of the reasons that is increasing inflation at a global pace. And if I say that this is putting effect on number of problems as well. So one problem is creating number of problems, that is putting stress on the individual of the global economy. So there are a lot of global uncertainties here. There is a tension in the Middle East as well, which is which is creating a lot of trouble in the trade aspect. Similarly, if I talk about geopolitical economic policy uncertainty index, so it has been increased from 121.7 to 133.6. Similarly, if I talk about World Trade Uncertainty Index, so it has also been increased from 8.5% to 14. Okay, so this is what your global this is what your economic survey says. So these are the reasons that there is impact, or our economy, global economy is getting impacted. So these are the global tensions we have. Next, if I talk about services sector, so this says that services sector growth has been steady, but manufacturing faces challenges. Manufacturing जो हमारा sector है, that is still facing challenges. Now there are a lot of aspects that are related to it, but specifically if I talk about your purchasing managers index, which shows you, which this is basically about the report card. If similarly when we talked about the economic survey, we analyzed that this is basically a report card which shows you the performance of each and every sector that is there in the economy. We covered that economic survey covers each and every section. Similarly, we have purchasing manager index, we have purchasing managers index, which takes care of your two sectors, broadly two sectors. One is your manufacturing sector, another one is your services sector. And what does your purchasing manager index shows, or what does your purchasing manager index says in this particular survey? That your services sector is increasing. But still we have a lot of problems that have been faced by your manufacturing sector. We know already that we already have jumped directly from our agricultural sector, I would say from our primary sector to direct to services sector, and we have forgot about our manufacturing sector, I would say our industrial sector. So still is a situation that manufacturing sector is facing a lot of problems. Now, if I say that services sector has been strengthened and manufacturing sector is still contracted. Similarly, if I talk about your inflationary pressure, so I told you that now central banks are moving towards a tighter monetary policy. That is, it is increasing your interest rate so that the volume, or what to say, the supply of money in an economy is decreasing. And when it decreases, the inflationary pressures that is there in the economy also gets decreased. So your inflationary pressure has been in ease, and but the risks of the synchronized price pressures still exists. What does it includes? So it says that inflation has been coming down due to the stricter economic policies and improved supply chains. That is, we are talking about tight monetary policy. We are talking about tight monetary policy. Similarly, the next point says that services prices remain high because there is increase in the price of the wages. You could have seen that after COVID, the wages have been very high. The wages have been very high. So this is one of the reasons that is there. Now services, prices remain very high. It says that the services prices remain very high because the wages have been increased after COVID. After COVID. But if I talk about services sector, the situation is still not normalized. We just talked about the global, geopolitical tensions. They have caused effect on our trade as well. So trade happens through various methods, be it airways, be it, road transportation. So it happens similarly with our through our transport system as well. So it shows that there is a shipping disruption that is causing prices of the goods to rise again in 2024. This is because of our geopolitical tension. This is because of our geopolitical tension. Okay. Next point we have is future inflation risks are there. They are lower, but the global tensions could still create price spikes. Okay, so this economic survey basically says that there exist political tensions, there exist geopolitical tensions. The world is still in risk, but you have to take care of your domestic economy. So economic survey says that put more stress, put more tension, or put more what to say, take your interest in the domestic perspective only. This is the chart, and you can see that if I talk about your global manufacturing PMI, okay, so PMI, the value of PMI is basically we have kept it as 50. If your PMI is more than 50, then this is a positive situation. This is a positive situation. We see that there is, if your PMI is more than 50, we analyze that there is a lot of manufacturing, there is a lot of industrialization is there, a lot of manufacturing is there. If it equals to 50, if it is equals to 50, then we consider that the situation has been same. We are not investing more in our capital assets. The manufacturing, there is no positive change in the manufacturing. Whereas if it is the PMI is less than 50, then we analyze that the situation is going wrong. Our manufacturing sector is in a trouble. Our manufacturing sector is in a trouble. Similarly, if I talk about your global manufacturing PMI, so what does the data shows? It is blue here. It is blue here. So if you see your blue line, it is somewhere equivalent to 50. Okay. According to December, according to November, it is equivalent to 50. But if you see the situation of December, it has been declined. So this is a problematic situation. If I see the global services PMI, so you see that there is increase in it. It is above 50. Similarly, this is a global composite PMI, which is more than 50. Now, if you see there, if I talk about your inflation in the advanced technologies, so you can see the chart of the inflation here. Okay, it was high in US in September 22. But if I talk about December 2024, the inflation has been decreased. But still, if I talk about US, the inflation is high here. Okay, so though it has been decreased if I compare it with 2022, but among these advanced technologies, among these advanced economies, the higher inflation we see is in your US. Okay, similarly, if I talk about your emerging economies, in which India is a part of it, so if I talk about India, you see that the inflation in December is somewhere nearing to what, 5 point something. Okay, it is somewhere to 5 point something. So this is what your data shows. The inflation, there is a decrease in the inflation in China. Okay, the situation of China is not perfect. The economy of the China is still in trouble. Similarly, if I talk about your easing monetary policy stances, so I told you that at the time of COVID-19, central banks, increase the supply of money in the economy so that economies can survive. People could have a lot of money in their hands, but it gave rise to inflation. It gave rise to increase in the price of goods and services. That was again problematic situation that we are facing today. This is the impact of what? This is impact of easing money policy, that the decision that it was taken by the central banks. Now, for curbing our inflation, central bank has tried a new step. Central bank has taken a new step of doing tighter monetary policy. So central bank has decided to increase its interest rate so that we can decrease the supply of money in our economy. So it includes that central banks are reducing the interest rates and inflation falls. Similarly, we are doing what? Each country will cut rates at different paces. Government bonds will have fell in 2024 but rose again in late 2024 due to inflation fears. Similarly, if I talk about China's economy, it is slowing down because it is causing effect in the bond yields to drop, and it is increasing the gap between your US and your Chinese bonds. So this is the situation that we have, that your economic survey has shown. Okay, now we talk about your stable domestic economy. So the survey says that though there are a lot of tensions in the global economy, your economy is still in a stabilized form. So this report says that if I talk about your real GDP, okay, GDP is what? GDP is related to your the data, the numbers that are there. But when it is combined with the real, so you have to remember that this is inflation adjusted. It is inflation adjusted. So this basically tells you the income of the entire economy, but that is inflation adjusted. Similarly, we have nominal GDP. Whenever you come across this word nominal GDP, you have to remember that that is not inflation adjusted. That just tells you about the current price level of the economy. Okay, so your real GDP says, the growth for financial year 2025 is estimated to be 6.4%. Okay. Similarly, if I talk about your private final consumption expenditure, so this is basically the expenditure that has been done by the entire households in your country, in your economy. So this is at the constant price is estimated to grow by 7.3%. Similarly, at current price, it is estimated to grow from 60.3% to 61.8%. Now again, your constant price, whenever I talk about constant price, it is inflation adjusted. Whenever I talk about constant price, it is inflation adjusted. Current price is not inflation adjusted. You have to remember that. Similarly, if I talk about your gross fixed capital formation, which tells you that what expenditure has been done on creating capital assets, on creating more capital assets. If you create more capital assets, that is a beneficial situation for your economy. So it says at a constant price is estimated to grow by 6.4%. This is how your domestic economy is stabilized in manner. Okay, now we have real GVA. It is estimated to grow by 6.4%. Your gross value added basically tells you the performance of your various sectors. Okay, so in GDP you get to know about the complete income of the that consists of your entire sectors. But if I talk about your GVA, it gives you the performance separately of separate sectors. Okay, agricultural sector की अलग मिलेगी, manufacturing sector की अलग मिलेगी. So this report says that real GVA is estimated to grow by 6.4%. Similarly, if I talk particularly about agricultural sector, so it has rebounded to grow at 3.8%. Industrial sector की growth is 6.2%, and I told you that services sector is going at a robust rate, which remains robust at 7.2%. So if you compare among, if you make a comparison among these three sectors, you will see that the which one is the sector that is outperforming is 7.2% of services sector. Okay, next, if I talk about your sector performance, so you will see that there is a strong growth rates in construction activities and electricity. gas, water supply, and other utility services. They are expected to support the industrial expansion. So you have to remember these sectors that are included in the survey. Similarly, if I talk about your health activity, that is in financial, real estate, professional services, public administration, defense and other services, these are the particular sectors that give support to your services sector. Now you all know that whatever I am delivering to you, this is also one of the parts of your services sector. So since our services sector is growing, which are the sectors that are giving support to this particularly services sector? So these are the sectors, these are the activities that are giving support to your services sector. Okay, you can see a chart here which shows you the performance of your domestic economy. So despite of the global uncertainty, India has been on a safer place. If you see the GVA of your agricultural sector, you can see here that in financial year 2025 it is nearly 3 point something, near to very 4. And if I talk about the average growth of financial year 15 to 24, it has been low. So this year, financial year 2025, it has been increased. Similarly, if I talk about industry GVA, it has seen an increase here. Services sector mein there is a dip if I compare it with the financial year from financial year 15 to 2024. But again, if I compare it today with the rest of the sectors, it is outperforming. Okay. Next, if I talk about GVA and GDP in total, so there is a dip here, but still it is outperforming. And if I talk about GDP, it is still low if I compare it with the financial year 15 to 24, that excludes your financial year 21 and 22. Okay, you have to remember this, that while making comparison, while considering the time period between 15 to 24, there is an exclusion of financial year 21 and 22. Since this was a time of COVID, we have not analyzed the situation. Now, if I talk about your resilient recovery that has been there after COVID-19 period, so you can see the picture is encouraging. If of course we saw that at the time of COVID-19, when the economies were not stabilized, our economy comparatively was still stabilized. And if I talk about the performance after the lockdown was finished, and after COVID-19 was finished, there the picture is still encouraging. If I compare it with the other nations, you can see the performance of the China that is today. There are many of the after effects that of the steps that have been taken by the government of India at that period of time. So the survey says that the economic picture is encouraging. The agricultural sector remains strong. There is a robust rate of growth in the recent year that has been seen in the services sector. Construction has been standout. Similarly, manufacturing sector is, the growth is little steady. There is a decrease in the manufacturing sector, but still it is okay. Next, if I talk about mining, so it continues to operate below the pre-pandemic trend. Services sector has been uneven. Financial sector, your real estate, your professional services have taken the lead. And if I talk about your trade, your services includes your hotels, your transport, your communication services. They have performed, they have outperformed. They are gradually catching up. Okay, they are gradually catching up. So these are the sectors that are included in your services sector, that are there in your services sector. Next, if I talk about this particular chart, so you can see aggregate GVA recovery here, deseasonalized your GVA and your pre-pandemic trend. So it is increasing. Similarly, if I talk about your agricultural GVA, it is still increasing. Okay. Next you have what? You have industrial GVA. So you can see it is still increasing. Next we have your services, so it is near to it. Okay. Similarly, if I talk about your construction GVA, operating well above the trends, and if I talk about your manufacturing sector, it is gradually recovering itself. So it says that your construction sector is increasing if I compare it with the COVID pandemic trend, but if I compare it with the manufacturing sector, it is still on its pace to increase. Okay. Next, if I talk about this particular survey, so it says that there is a fastest growth in the manufacturing purchasing manager index. Okay, so your purchasing manager index says that manufacturing sector में कहीं ना कहीं गड़बड़ है, but if I talk about your services sector, that is performing very well in the economy. Similarly, if I see that there is decrease in the retail headline inflation from your 5.4% to 4.9%. If I talk about capital expenditure, so it grew by 8.2%. Now we all know that if government is doing a lot of expenditure in generating more capital, that will create what? That will create more assets, that will create more your assets in the economy, which is a good thing. But similarly, if expenditure is done on the revenue expenditure, that is a bad thing, because that is not generating any asset for your economy. So if there is increase in the capex, which is your capital expenditure, that is good for your economy. Okay, now it has become the 7th large share. It has taken a 7th large share in the global services exports. Similarly, if I talk about your non-petroleum and non-gems and non-jewelry exports, went up by 9.1%. Unemployment rate has been declined from 6% to 3.2%. Net employees, provident fund organization subscriptions are rising from 61 lakh in financial year 19 to 131 lakhs in financial year 2024. Okay, so this is the performance of, or I would say the global slowdown, how it impacted your manufacturing sector in the Q2 of financial year. Okay, so you can see, if you see the PMI manufacturing, you can see it is nearly to 56.4%, and whenever it comes to PMI, you have to compare it with 50. Okay, you have to take a benchmark of 50 and then you have to compare. If it is above then 50, the performance is good. If it is equivalent to 50, the economy is there is no change there. If it is less than 50, the performance has been decreased. Similarly, if I talk about new export orders, it is 50.7. Okay, next, if I talk about the economy that is characterized by the stability and inclusivity on the multiple fronts, so you can see that judicious financial management has been there. So how government is spending money, from where the government is taking loan, it has to take care of that also. Government, if the government has taken a lot of debt from a country, how it is spending it? Is it the expenditure is useful, the expenditure it is doing on a particular sector, is it performing better or not? So these are the things that has to be taken care by the government of India, and accordingly your economy also works. So whatever the debt has been taken by the government of India, government has to ensure that it goes in a productive manner, it goes in a productive sense. So you have to do financial, you have to do judicious use of your resources. So judicious financial fiscal management has helped to Ryan in general government of all savings greater. There is a greater significance in the sustaining of the overall savings in the economy. Also, the government dis savings, if I talk about the government dis savings, it could have implied a greater reliance on foreign funding. That is prudent fiscal management in the last 4 years kept the overall savings investment gap from widening and ensured a comfortable financing of the current account deficit, even though the household saving rate moderated. So this is what your economic survey says. This is what your economic survey says about the performance of the government, or how your government is performing in a fiscal sense. Okay, if you see the chart here, so this particular survey says that government is trying its best to do fiscal discipline, to whatever the loan has been taken by the government, whatever the debt has been taken by the government is utilizing it in a normal form, because the more debt is taken by the government, that is a problematic situation for the people of India. So this thing has to be ensured that government takes loan, but whatever loan is taken by the government of India, it is first utilized in a proper way, that is generating more assets, or that is in a sector that gives you more income out of it. Secondly, you have to take debt in an adequate manner, so that the impact of it does not completely the people of India are not completely bothered by the step that has been taken by the government. So this the particular survey says that there is a strong focus on the fiscal discipline. There is a strong focus on the fiscal discipline by the government of India. Okay, similarly, if I talk about inflation, so this shows a combination of low and your stable core inflation with high volatility in your food prices. Now, I told you that central banks has tried its best to, go with the tighter monetary policy. Central banks are doing a thing that it is increasing your interest rates. It is increasing your interest rates so that the supply in the economy can be decreased. Similarly, if I talk about, this is a situation of our domestic economy. Similarly, if I talk about your global perspective, so I told you that there are a lot of tensions there, be it geopolitical tension, okay, be it a tension of trade, because when there are geopolitical tensions, it is putting direct tension on our trade. And when the trade will not be smooth, it will of course impact the prices of your goods and services. So you will see that there is a volatility in your food prices. So retail headline inflation as measured by the change in the CPI has softened from 5.4% in financial year 2024 to 4.9% in April-December 2024. If I talk about the food prices here, so pressures in food prices have been driven by the factors such as your supply chain disruptions, your wages in your weather conditions. And similarly, if I talk about food inflation, particularly food inflation, then it has been decreased from 7.45% to 8.4%. This is what we are talking about at global perspective. Okay, now you can see here we have CPI inflation, we have CFPI inflation, we have core inflation. So you can see the performance of there that has been given in the economic survey. Similarly, if you talk about CPI inflation, that includes your top commodities, significantly lower, then it is 4.5%. Okay. Next, we have data about the central sector. So what your survey talks about external sector. So it shows that there is a mixed trend there. There is a decline in the commodity prices that has affected the India's merchandise exports. Whenever I talk about merchandise, so in basically merchandise, what does it include? It includes only goods that are that have been transported from one sector to one country to another. Okay, from one place to another. So through what? Through the petroleum good channel. Next, if I talk about India's merchandise exports, it has grown by 1.6%. Similarly, if I talk about India's merchandise exports, grown by 1.6% year on year in April to December 2024. Non-petroleum exports by 7.1%. Merchandise imports rose by 5.2%. If I talk about your gross foreign direct investment, the inflows have been increased by 17.9% year on year in April to November 2024. Similarly, if I talk about your FPI flows, it has been very volatile. Okay, so this is what your survey says. Next, India's forex cover. India's forex cover is 90% of the external debt. And if I talk about the import cover, then it provides import cover of more than 10 months. Okay, this is your forex expenditure. Next, if I talk about your evolving trade stance of a major economies that could affect the key Indian sectors such as your chemical, your machinery, your textile, and your electronics. So these are the sectors that can put impact here. Similarly, we have employment trends. We have employment trends as well. So PLFS, which is your periodic labor force survey, is the one which gives you the data which gives you the performance of the employment and unemployment. So this particular report says that your unemployment rate for individual age 15 years and above has steadily declined from 6% in 2017-18 to 3.2% in 2023-24. Okay, similarly, if I talk about your LFPR and worker to population ratio, it has been increased. Government initiatives are playing a key role in enhancing the formalization of the job market. Similarly, if I talk about artificial intelligence, so we all know that there is, we are including a lot of technology and AI in each and every sector of our economy. So it has put impact on our Indian labor market. The adoption of AI has offered a potential to support our economic growth and improve our labor market outcomes. Okay, so this is what your economic survey says. This is a chart and you can go through it. Next, if I talk about way forward, what does your survey says? what are the steps, what is the outlook here? So your survey says that it is expecting that real GDP growth in financial year 2026 to be between 6.3% to 6.8%. Okay, similarly the survey says that global competitiveness should be increased, your grassroots level structural reforms and deregulation should be there, and if I talk about the medium term growth projection potential, it has to be reinforced. So this is what your global survey says. Okay, this is what your global survey says. Now we have a question for all of you. Now the question says that the global economic growth has remained fairly moderate. Now this is how a question will be asked in your examination. This is the pattern of the question that is going to be asked in your examination. So the question says that the global economic growth has remained fairly moderate. The global economy grew by 3.3% in 2023. In its report, you have to say that which organization is the one who has projected it. We just read in the while analyzing this entire report. So A in its report, B has expected a global growth to remain stable in financial year 2025-26. At C, in both 2025 and 26, while the overall global outlook remains steady, growth varies across different regions. Growth is projected to be 2.7% in financial year 2025 in the United States due to underlying demand, strong wealth effects, a less restrictive monetary policy stance, and supportive financial conditions. However, the combined group of D are expected to fare better at a growth rate of 4.2% in the financial year 2025. Now, you have to tell me A stands for what? A stands for, if you talk about A, so we just read that IMF is the one who did projection of what? 3.2%, but our economy stands at 3.3%. So the first A stands for IMF. Similarly, if I talk about B, so B stands for your World Economic Outlook. Okay. C की अगर मैं बात करूँ, so it has projected now our global economy stands at 3.3%, but IMF projected it at 3.2%. Similarly, if I talk about D, so D stands for your emerging market and developed economies. Okay. Next, as per the first advance estimates released by the National Statistic Office, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, that is your MOSPI, India की जो real growth है, real gross domestic product है, growth for financial year is estimated to be what? We read that it is estimated to be 6.4%. Okay, this is clear to everyone because we analyzed it in the while analyzing our survey. Next, as per the first advanced estimates of the agricultural production for 2024-25, the total kharif grain production is estimated at your 1647.05 LMT. ठीक है, so you can just read it. Next क्या है हमारे पास? इंडिया का जो करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट है, that is your CAD, remains relatively contained at 1.2% of the GDP. Remain 1.2% of GDP. We covered it in our MCQ session as well. Next question you have is, as a result of the stable capital flows, India's foreign exchange reserves increased from USD 616.7 billion at the end of the January 2024 to USD 634.6 billion as on January 3, 2025. Okay. Next question we have is, as of November 2024, your personal loans contributes to the maximum in gross bank credit. Okay, so you have to remember it. Next question we have is, as per the RBI's financial stability report, this is very important report. Okay, if you're the one who's preparing for RBI examination, this is very important. December 2024, the gross non-performing assets, that are your NPAs, in the banking system have declined to a 12-year low of 2.6% of gross loans and advances. Okay, so these are the questions that are there. Now, good news for all of you is that I, Payal and Mannat ma'am have decided to decode your entire survey and budget. So I am taking care of the survey, economic survey of financial year 2024-25, and Mannat ma'am is taking care of the budget of 2025 to 26. So if you want to join this batch, because this is going to be very helpful for all of the examinations in the coming, if you're the one who is preparing for government examinations that are there in 2025, economic survey and budget is very important document that has to be prepared. Why to join this batch? Because I told you that there will be a detailed analysis here. It includes practice MCQs as well. That is for your revision for purpose. You can download the notes and your ebooks as well. Chapter wise coverage is going to be there of economic survey, and it includes your answer writing practices as well. Okay, so that is it in the chapter 1 of the economic survey. I hope you have understood each and every section of the chapter 1 of your economic survey. I'll meet you in the chapter 2 of the economic survey. Thank you.